So here we are. We are at episode 5, and welcome to everyone who is watching Wednesdays at noon with PunkinFutz. And we're super happy to have you choose to have your lunch with us or choose your midday activity and spend it with us. So welcome to everyone who might be watching. My name is Shanique Ruiz, and I'm on team here at PunkinFutz. And I'm super happy that we're now at episode 5, and today we have Noreen Cavanaugh, who is a educator and a kindergarten teacher specifically, who's going to answer questions today and chat with us about online distance learning in the time that we're in right now, plus a few more things that we have planned. And for everyone who is watching, we just want to take this time to say thank you and send lots of love and virtual hugs to our frontline workers and people who might not have the privilege to be able to stay home right now. And we want to encourage everyone to do that. Please stay home. It's safer at home. And that's what we're doing right now, which is why we brought this program to our Facebook, because we are staying at home. So thank you so much to frontline workers. We love you. We respect you. And we're here with you from afar. Thank you to everyone who makes it possible for us to be able to stay home right now. I also want to take this time to let you guys know that you can send questions for Noreen, that she will answer them. We'll check the live chat throughout this Facebook Live to address comments or questions that anyone out there might have. So there might be a small lag between when you send the questions versus when we see them. So just give us a little bit of grace with that, please. So I'm just going to dive right into it. So Noreen, where are you right now?
Hello. Yes, I'm talking to you from home. I live in Connecticut, and I have the privilege of being a kindergarten teacher here in Connecticut who is experiencing the joy of distance learning. And just as it continues to evolve, we're in our 4th week of learning. We had last week off for vacation, and it's just a wonderful adventure as we move through this with our children and our parents.
That's awesome. And how long have you been teaching for?
I'm 17 years as a teacher. I had 5 years in first grade, and then now it's been 12 years in kindergarten.
That's amazing. I think the more time that you spend in a field, the more information and experience you have to offer to everyone. So that's why I'm really excited to talk to you today and to have you on our Facebook with us. Just because I think that you'll have so much to offer to everyone who might have questions.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm so happy to be here.
Well, we're so happy to have you. My first question, I think, would be, how do you help parents and children learn during this time?
Well, I've been very fortunate. The district that I work in has a very detailed learning progression for each grade, and it really is laid out Monday through Friday and covers all of the academic areas as well as our special areas. There are links included, electronic books. So it really is all there on one page, and the parents can access things. In addition to that, I've been meeting with my students one-on-one twice a week. So able to use technology to be able to do some guided reading with them, check on their math skills, and also answer any questions parents may have regarding the learning plan. And then recently we added in a social time where the children can sign on, and we have a Google Meet where we can say hello to one another, and I can read a book. So some community learning as well as the one-on-one.
That's amazing. So when you say the technology to read to children online, what technology do you use specifically for that? For anyone who might be
Well,
looking for a platform.
I'll tell you what we've been using is Google Meets for those, and then we have a subscription to A to Z Reading, which has a whole library of leveled books. So I determine the level that or the book that I'm going to be reading with my student, and I can bring it up on the screen so that we are both actually looking at the same book at the same time. So it allows me to do really the work I would do at my reading table, We preview vocabulary, we do a picture walk, and then we go back in and the student is able to read, and I'm able to see the exact same page that my student is seeing. So it really works out very well.
That's awesome. I'm sure they love that. Story time and feeling like they're connected to their classmates and to you and to just be able to follow along. I think that's awesome. Hi, Rebecca. Rebecca is on team with us at PunkinFutz, and she says hi, and that it's nice to see us.
Very nice. Oh,
My next question is, how do you manage weekly schedule with students?
well, as we move to the distance learning format, we actually created each teacher in our district created their own schedule to be able to meet with students. Then we use a parent communication platform, which is Constella. So based on that, within that site, we're able to do scheduling. So I would put the schedule out, 15-minute blocks, and parents chose what two sessions would be most convenient for their family. And then I was able to put that into the Google Meets. So we actually use Google Meets to do our meetings, but we use a platform, Constella, to be able to reach out to parents and find out what is going to be most convenient for them. And that seems to have worked very well.
I think that's really useful, and I'm sure that parents are grateful to you for making yourself available for not only educational needs for their children, but for them to be able to know that you're there and supporting them. So I think that's awesome. For me personally, I don't have children, but I am hearing from my mom that it's really useful to have my sister's teachers on standby whenever she has questions or when she's struggling with something in terms of distance learning, just because this is a transitional phase for everyone, including the parents who are not used to teaching the children. So I think that's awesome.
It's great to have that relationship with them on a continual basis. You're absolutely right.
So when it comes to parents, you just answered that question, so I think we don't need to go back into that. And I think my next question would be, do you believe that your students personally will be ready for next year? Is there any equity issues where you are? So you can answer the first question first and then.
Excellent. I think that children will come in as they do every year in different places. And that's something that as teachers, we're trained to handle the differentiation within our classrooms. Will there be more next fall? There potentially could be. I look at it in the way that some of these children, my parents are doing an amazing job. They're really providing such quality time, instruction with their children. So I have some children with that one-on-one instruction. They may actually advance a little bit farther because of that one-on-one versus 1 to 17. For those children that the instruction is not as solid, we will have our arms around them when they enter, and we'll know where they are and meet them at that point to move them forward. And one of the big questions for all districts is the equity. Some homes may not have the resources, or their parents may not have the resources to be able to provide that quality education at home. And we are doing our best to provide technology to all students within the district. Once again, the teacher is making contact. So I think we're doing our best to keep our arms around all of our students, and not just our students, but our families, because it's really important that we're supporting them as well. And once again, for all students, as they enter, we hope we enter together in September, we will know where the students are. We always do beginning year assessment. So we'll have a good handle on where those students are and be able to provide any additional support they may need to get them up and moving in the next grade.
I think that's awesome. So Lisa is actually tuned in, and she asked, what has been the hardest part of remote learning for younger children, which you are a kindergarten teacher, so you're really young. And what's been the hardest part for you?
Well, I think that the hardest part for me is missing those little faces, and quite frankly, missing seeing them together. I think that I have in my class of 17, I have 6 children that are only children. So even within that, because of distance learning and social distancing, it really means that some of these children don't have the friends to play with, that that children in a home with other siblings at least have a younger friend to play with in the home. And so when we do get into our small meeting groups and I see my students, their faces light up as they see their other friends. And so that I think is the hardest for me, is to missing that interaction of the students together. That being said, my district is continuing to grow in this whole process. And starting next week, we will move on where I actually am going to be holding academic small group learning. And so I will allow the children to be able to collaborate with conversations with one another, which is really a powerful tool in the learning process. So we continue to evolve, and we're adding in some of those social pieces. Even though it's virtual, at least they will have that contact with their friends.
That's amazing. Do you find that that children that young are understanding what's happening right now? Do you guys have any conversations during your classroom sessions about what's happening?
Well, it's so funny because one of the little children, one of my friends just asked me the other day, Mrs. Cavanaugh, are we going to get back to room one? And which is, of course, my room. And I just had to be honest. I said, sweetheart, I hope we will. I don't know, but we will continue to work together regardless. And, when we had a group meeting, and it was before we had gotten started, and one of the little ones said, my dad doesn't think we're going to be going back to room one. And one of the other friends said, but I don't want to go to first grade. I want to be in kindergarten, because they never really, it ended so abruptly in terms of our time in the. So I think for little ones, it's hard for them to understand. I did have one mother say to me early on that the novelty had worn off, and that they just wanted to be back in at our school with our schedule and their friends. So I think we're moving through it. I definitely see parents and children. They've found their new normal. And we'll just have to continue to move through that and keep our arms around those children.
Amazing. What does a normal school day look like for your children, for you and for your children?
In the classroom, or now during distance learning?
I think now during distance learning.
Yeah. So for many of them, we have pre-recorded what would be a morning meeting. And so some of the families will bring up our slides, and they kind of start the day with the Pledge of Allegiance, and they do our school promise, and they do the calendar and the weather. And so they keep more of a routine. And I think most parents are trying to do that. One of the things that is nice in distance learning is when they need a break, they can go outside and then come back and get into the next learning progression. And some parents like to just keep moving. If they have their child is engaged, they keep moving through the learning so that they want to have it finished and then move on to other activities. So each family has taken the learning progressions and adjusted them to their own child and their own work and family situation.
Lisa asked, is most of the learning where you are being managed by parents, or more like homeschooling, or do you find that it's an equal balance?
I think the parents are doing a great job. Each Friday afternoon, the parents receive the learning progressions for the next week. And as I said, embedded in that are links for books that the children are going to read. An example is right now in kindergarten, we're working on informational text and identifying topic and key details. So there are actually books that the parents can bring up online, have the children listen to or read, and then have a conversation with the parent after to identify that main topic and a key detail. And that there's math problems and books, literacy connections to the math problems. So the parents, there's a very solid guide for the parents, and yet there is flexibility for the parents to choose how much they feel capable of working through with their child. So we've provided that flexibility in there as well.
That's awesome. Hi, Robin. Robin is watching. She asked, are you challenged at all in the classroom with with a child's mental health or anxieties right now? And if so, do you address them with their parents?
I haven't seen anxiety with my children. One thing sometimes it's challenging, the distractibility. I think the virtual learning I would say that for 90% of my students, they are sitting right down when it is my 15 minutes, they come right in. They are ready with, I always say I have paper and a pencil. Or many of them the parents have purchased whiteboards for them with dry erase so that we can work together and they can hold things up and I can easily see what they have. So really it's the one thing that I do notice that for some children, the virtual, it's harder for them to stay focused and engaged, but the majority do very well with it.
That's great to hear. Lisa just said, interesting. I had always heard that kindergarten is about socializing children to school. I love the group learning opportunities that have been really important for my son too.
And you know what? That's really interesting because we've tiptoed into that. We started out our first few weeks was all just the one-on-one touch bases with the classroom teacher, because we really, once again, getting back to that equity issue, we wanted to make sure that if the teacher was doing some group lessons, we didn't want to have some friends missing out from that. If there was a lack of resource or lack of opportunity in the home to get them as part of that meeting. But we've continued to layer things on. And kindergarten, one of the things is we train children on how to learn in a group environment. And the other thing is, in kindergarten, we teach them a lot of executive function. And what I mean by that is, that's part of that whole process of that socialization of how to behave with other friends. What is the right way to ask a friend for something? You don't just grab it. Following rules in the school, keeping your materials organized. So all of that we teach, and the children get practice during our play center time in the afternoon, where they get to choose a center and they get to work independently with their peers and work through problems. And obviously we're there as teachers to help support that process if children need some more coaching, but it's so important for them to have that interaction with their peers and learn how to work through problems together. So that piece, they are missing out on that. Fortunately, we were able to get through to March, so the children had a lot of opportunity. And when they get to first grade, that's always the one thing they do miss their center time, because it is a joyous way to end the day.
I can imagine. So I think my next question would be, what resources do you recommend right now for parents and children staying home?
Well, one of the places that I have directed, and I just was on the phone with a parent before I came on this meeting. Teacher Pay Teacher has amazing resources, and you purchase them online and then can download them. And they have wonderful games, and for some children, a worksheet. If a parent's working, a worksheet can help support the child in reinforcing a skill that they're working on. So there are a myriad of things that you can purchase, and you can do it by specific topic of what you want to work on. So parents, I have directed, and parents have been successful downloading different games and worksheets that they have their children working on through Teacher Pay Teacher. I think that's probably the one that I would say is the most extensive, and I think that's a great resource.
Yeah, we've actually heard about Teacher Pay Teacher, and they seem to offer some really great resources as well. Are there any ways that parents can help support socialization at home that you can recommend?
You know what? I think there are some great programs on public television, and being able to have a conversation with your child, not just having them watch the program, but I think the important thing is that conversation afterwards. And I think just promoting good, positive interaction with your child is you're the best role model for them. So if they are in a home that they're the only child, there is not another younger child to be able to interact with, making sure that the adult interactions are done in a positive way, reinforcing positive socializing skills.
What types of new norms are you seeing right now in virtual learning or distance learning, whichever one we'd like to call it? I think it's kind of the same thing, but what types of new norms are you seeing during this time?
Well, one of the things I had to really talk with my parents, especially the first few weeks, is that when you are sitting one-on-one, parent and child, that's really intense learning. And I had to remind parents that in my classroom, the children, I'll give an example. When we do writer's workshop, they are seated. I do a mini lesson. So their eyes are on me and they are focused on me. Once they go back with their writing folder and start their own writing, there's an opportunity for a little socialization, a visit with a friend. So it's broken up a little bit. And that looks really different than when mom is sitting and sitting next to you and there is that mental break. So one of the things that I really have encouraged my parents is remember that your home and the intensity of the one-on-one versus really what the children are used to from 8:30 to 3:30, they have much more mental breaks. They have chances to have a little socialization. And so we chunk it's in smaller chunks. And so that was one of the big things that I encourage parents to do. Take a break in the morning, go outside, have them ride their bike and get some exercise. And so that, I really encourage not sitting and trying to do the whole thing in one chunk, because I think that just for kindergartners specifically, that's really challenging for them to maintain engagement and focus for that long time, a time period.
I would imagine that it would be. Um, I think my next question would be for someone who is. So let me have it pulled up on the screen. If you could say anything to parents right now, what would it be during this time?
You are doing an awesome job. That's what I would say. And I really think there is no perfect job. We're all, kind of putting the airplane together as we're flying it. And so we're all in uncharted waters. But I will tell you, I am so proud of my parents. They are jumping right in, and some are more at ease than others, but they're all doing the best that they can. And I think that that's just so important. And I think parents, don't look at anyone else. Look at your family. Because every family is different. The demands within the family are different. And even the demands on the parents. I mean, some parents are trying to work full time and then also do the teaching. And I think that what I would say to parents is take a deep breath. Um, we will get through this. Your child is learning, and that we need to take the pressure off the parents to think that they have to accomplish. Um, just know that we will meet them on the other end and pick up wherever their child is. But just the fact that they're working and engaged with their child, we thank them.
I love that encouragement, Noreen. I think everybody needs to hear that, no matter what grade their child is in. Lisa just asked a question: how long should a kindergartner be able to sit and focus? What should be parents' expectations in that?
In all honesty, that does depend on the kindergartner. Some have longer focus. The other thing that really impacts that is what you're doing and what their interest is. So if you happen to be one of my friends, the child before vacation was really very, very strong academically, but really not enjoying the how-to writing that we were doing. And just met with her this week, and she had written a whole book on opinion writing and had done a petition, which is our next genre that we're working on. So all of a sudden that just clicked. She loves it, and is writing up a storm. So I think that it does vary per child. And I think parents have a good sense if they start to see that someone's getting a little wiggly or you're having to refocus them. I would take a break. And so I don't think that there needs to necessarily be a certain amount of time. I'd watch my child and see how they're reacting, and depending on what you're doing with them, that's also going to affect what they like, and what you're doing is going to also play a role in how long they're able to stay with you.
Hmm. Um, I was wondering, are there any frequently asked questions or concerns that you're getting from your parents or from other teachers around you that you can share with us?
Well, I think, one of the big questions was something that you alluded to earlier was, how do we know our children are going to be ready for the next grade? And then my parents were also curious, are we going to have to show work that we've done to prove that they are ready? There were some questions about maintaining work so that they could prove that where their children had moved through. And I think the key thing that parents need to know is that they will move on, and that we will meet them wherever they are and move them forward through their next school year successfully. So I think that just is something that you want to put parents' fears to rest, because they don't need to worry about that piece.
I love that. Lisa just asked, are there any suggestions you have for stretching children's attention span?
You know what? I think it's like anything else. The more you work with a child, the long, it's like exercise. The more you exercise, you add a little bit as you go. And I noticed that very much as the year goes on in kindergarten. When I start with them, their attention span is very short. And our morning meeting, we have to be up and down and keeping them moving. Because I would say 10 minutes, and I've got to stop, shift gears, give them something to do, and move on. By March, when we were leaving, I can do small groups where they are working independently at 5 stops. They have myself at one stop and another adult at another table working games with them. I'm reading or doing math instruction, and they can go an hour over, where they can move. They are moving, and they are going to different activities during that hour, but they are focused, and that grows as the year. In the beginning of the year, it's really more like 40 minutes. And then you can, as the books get longer, so does their attention span and their ability to stay with a project. So it's really like anything else, just stretching that time, adding a little bit, and they grow and develop so that they're able to do that and maintain focus.
Love that. Rhea Bernstein, who looks to me like she might also be a kindergartner, she said a kindergartner can focus for 15 to 20 minutes, but this varies with your child's emotional state and ability to self-regulate. That is piggybacking off of what you just said, actually. And I think that seeing a lot of teachers here in our comments is motivating. Rhea, if you're still here, hi, and thank you so much for your comment. Robin Waxenberg just asked, what are the silver linings that you're seeing as a result of this new normal in the classroom?
I think that as teachers, and we're all commenting, we are learning so much technology. Not that we didn't use technology in our classrooms prior, but we are all learning so much about ways that we can, use this technology in our classrooms in the fall. And what does that look like? Well, it may be in small groups. My children can do things. They're becoming much more competent on another format that we use is called Seesaw. And that's an opportunity for children to be able to they can upload work into a journal that I can view. And I had just started to introduce that to my children as we went into our distance learning, because for kindergartners, it takes a little while to get them as accustomed to it. But I think through this process, they will go into first grade being very competent and being able to use it. And that's a wonderful way for teachers to be able to have children working independently, but be able to still check their work and see how they're progressing. So I think that there are some benefits to the technology that we're using that is really going to we'll continue to use it in a positive way in our classrooms.
I love that. I have a question for you, Noreen, as a teacher. How are you breaking up your day between your children? Because I'm assuming that you break up your schedule for each of your children for 15 minutes per child in your classroom. And you also have to have time for yourself in your own life during quarantine. What does that look like for you? And what recommendations can you make for other teachers out there who might be struggling with the routine of this whole new normal?
Well, that's a really good question. And home with me right now is my son, who is a senior in college. So I don't have, as I've shared with some of my peers that have school-age children, that is one piece I don't have. And I do have a number of friends that are balancing not only their teaching and their commitment to their students in their classroom, but also to their commitment to their children, their own children, and
Mm.
moving their distance learning forward. So I feel as though I do have a little more flexibility. So what I tried to do is just chunk my day. And I have my group in the morning that I meet with, have a little break in the middle of the day to take notes. One of the things that we are doing is making sure that we maintain communication logs
Hmm.
so that we are keeping track of what we did with each student during that 15-minute block. And those logs are actually now going to be used because as we transition next week to a new stage where we will be doing some academic small group learning as the classroom instructor, then we will have some of our paraprofessionals or teaching assistants doing the second 15-minute check-in that I was doing. I will pass that to one of our teaching assistants or our paraprofessionals, and they actually are going to use the logs that we've been maintaining to know where to take the learning with that second check-in. So we're just finding that whole balance, being able to make sure that you're keeping that updated. So some of the behind the scenes work that has to get done, but I'm also trying to Zumba in the morning and Zumba the
Love
end of the
that.
day, keeping my exercise going because
Have to stay
the
active.
energy. I think I'm missing the number of steps I normally get because as a kindergarten teacher, you never sit and you're constantly
Mm.
moving. So I'm having to adjust to a new norm of sitting, which is not something that I'm used to. So putting in some exercise, and I think it gets to for everyone as we move through this new normal is keeping an eye on yourself and what you need in terms of exercise or keeping your health moving forward.
I love that. Um, is there something that you're looking forward to when the pandemic has passed and we go back to a normal life? And I'm putting up air quotations because I don't think that we'll ever really be um, truly back to normal after this. I think everything will change, some things for the better, and we'll learn new things throughout this that we'll be able to apply to our new normal lives after this pandemic has passed. But is there anything that you're looking forward to?
You know what? This is teaching is actually a second career for me. And one of the things that I just treasure so much is I get to start my day with wonderful 5-year-olds that come in so excited to share what happened the day before and it just the joy that they have in life and just hearing them laugh and giggle and and showing me things that they brought in for share or a lost tooth or that I just can't wait to hear that laughter in the morning. And what
Mm.
happens in a school building, it's so quiet. And then all of a sudden, when the lines start coming in, the joy that you hear coming in is just, it warms your heart. And I think the missing that camaraderie that I see with the children and the joy and how it's amazing how quickly we get into our routine in our classroom. And we are so productive, but we also have great joy and laughter. And so I can't wait to get back and have children together and be with them and be able to just experience the joy of learning as a group.
I love
So
that. Robin just said children often look forward to a special ceremony at the end of the school year as they move from one grade to the next, with many high school and college students not being able to formal in-person graduations. Will you celebrate with your own students later this spring?
That's an excellent question. And right now, I'm not sure what that's going to look like because I think it really depends on all the social distancing, how quickly we move through the peak of this pandemic, and how quickly officials feel it's safe that we get back together. One of the things in our school that has always been the tradition is the last day of school, we have a dance party,
Hmm.
and each grade has a dance. And um, we also close the year. We usually have a school fair. And as a kindergarten teacher, that's particularly lovely because all of the new families that will be entering kindergarten in the fall are always invited. And so there's two amazing traditions, one of welcoming new Duffy families, and then the other one is the end of the year for us. And I think that at this point, I'm hopeful that we will come up with something, even if it's not in June. The other thing I just as a pragmatic thing, we have so many things that have been lent out, so many devices. I know that we sent the last day, March 13th, every child was to leave our school with at least 10 books.
Mm.
So between the library and between my own classroom library, we were pushing books into backpacks. So I would hope that, and I think families would like that too, if we had just even some opportunity to return things so that we can get things back into place so that we can then open the new year, having our resources available to all again. So, but I'm going to tell you that that was such a wonderful move, because one of my parents just shared with me yesterday, that's part of their routine. They read those books, one
Amazing.
or two books a day. And those are becoming very favorite books and improving fluency. But that's something I just have in the back of my mind. I would love us if we had a collect resource day, so we got to see everyone and sort of handing it back in so that we are ready to make the move to the new year. But nothing formally has been decided yet.
Mhm. So Lisa just asked a really good question that I'm actually curious about. Are there any changes you foresee for education going forward as a result of this experience?
You know what? I think there's really two parts to that question. Are we going to take anything that we've learned from this and move it into our classrooms? And I think we've talked about that in terms of the technology. Um, I do think we are doing an excellent job. The children are doing an excellent job. I think that nothing does replace that community learning that we do within the building. And I think that's hard to replicate in a virtual situation. Um, in terms of, one of the things I struggle with is when we talk about social distancing, what does that look like in a classroom of
Mm.
21 children? And, just you think of our cafeteria alone, you have 12 children to a table sitting
Wow.
right next to.
Yeah.
So how does that look in the future? And what does that do to how we approach the children and how we teach them? Because it's so important as a kindergarten teacher, or quite frankly, any elementary school teacher. I call it my U-shaped table, where I'm sitting in there right in front of me. And that's when they do their best learning, is when it's right small group and I'm right there with them. And I know that if there is a child that is losing focus, I can refocus them because they're right within that close proximity.
Mm-hmm.
So I do have questions in my thoughts what that is going to look like as we move into the fall, or as we would move and transition back into our building.
Right.
Um, so
My next question, I think, would be how are you staying connected right now to other educators and to the people that you are used to having around you in administration at your school and things like that? What does that look like for you?
Well, we are very lucky. We have 2 staff meetings a week. And so we're able to stay in touch not only with our principal, but then we see all of the rest of the faculty as well. In addition to that, my kindergarten team, we meet twice a week alone to talk about planning, and
Mm.
so that we're being consistent with the instruction that we're providing for our students. And then on the top of that, we have professional learning community that meets virtually once a week. So that's our principal and our curriculum specialist and our reading specialist and the kindergarten team. That's another meeting. So we do have many opportunities where we are collaborating, which is just so critical at this time, since we're not physically together, but we are given that opportunity to work together. So that's been really amazing.
I would imagine. Is there anything? So now I'm going to ask a super random question that's not at all really connected to education that I'm curious about. We're coming up on 5 minutes, which we're about to do closing remarks in a second, but I'm just curious, like, is there anything random that you're not able to find, or things that you need at your local grocery store that you're not able to find right now?
We've been pretty fortunate. My Swifter wet mop, I was having trouble finding those, and then we were able to find those the last time that my son went to the grocery store. So we have been fortunate with that. The cleaning products, they were low in the beginning. I think paper towels seem to be on. We were able to get a
Right.
package,
Same
but
here.
not the package that we normally get. So I've been using regular towels and trying to save my paper towels for my big cleaning day on Saturday. So, but it'd be nice to get back to normal.
Robin actually just commented. She said, "You've described your classroom students as very much able to accommodate to the new normal overall. Were you surprised by this, or do you have to credit this to the great approach of you and other teachers at Duffy have put into place to ensure good communication with parent and child?" Sorry that I'm squinting. Like, things come up really small on the screen, so I apologize.
Well, that's it. You know what? I credit it's all of the above. I think my district has done an amazing job with the learning plans. They are just so well thought out. I'm in awe of them. And of course, I study them each week and make sure that I'm incorporating pieces into my contact with the children and my teaching. But I think the district has done an amazing job. My parents have been amazing. I mean, they are so committed to the process and to their children that it's been just joyful to see that and to work with them. So I'm not surprised. I happen to benefit from it. We have an amazing PTO. Our parents are extremely supportive, and that has just dovetailed into them taking this responsibility and just running with it and putting an amazing amount of effort into to their children. And I think that we are just grateful that they've been so supportive.
That's amazing. Noreen, I just want to say, like, your love for your children radiates through you. I'm not even near you right now, but I feel it through the computer and through this conversation that we're having. So I'm so happy that I was able to talk to you today. And I think that we learned a lot about the education system and the way that educators are handling this transition, this pandemic, this new normal. Is there anything specific that you'd like to say before we close out this conversation to anyone out there who might be watching?
Just, you know what, a big thank you to all the parents out there that are balancing so many things. We teachers really appreciate it, and we will have our arms around your children in September, and we will just continue to move forward. So just a big thank you, and a thank you to the children who have adjusted so nicely. And I just really am so proud of them, and I'm proud of everything I'm seeing when I meet with them.
I love that. If anyone has questions for you after this live is over, is there any way that they could contact you?
Yes, I have an AOL account, and it's. Would you like me to give that? Yep. Oh, there it
Yeah,
is, right on the
it's
screen.
right
Yep.
on the screen.
NDACH. Yep.
Yeah,
Great.
and you would love to hear from people, right? If they have any questions or comments or just to talk to you from one teacher to another. Are you okay with that?
Absolutely.
Okay, well,
Absolutely.
we're actually 1 minute out from ending this conversation, so I just want to take the time to say thank you so much to Noreen for this conversation and for taking this time out to talk to us. And on Friday, we'll be back for a segment especially for children, and we'll be talking with, well, not really talking, but we'll be with Lisa Lewis, who is a circus extraordinaire who's going to teach us some circus activity and how to incorporate that stuff at home with your children. So we really hope that you're able to tune in, and you will actually be able to see that hosted by our very own Rebecca Schwartz, who is a kidult. So she's a kid and an adult, and she's really awesome, and we're really excited to have that. So thank you so much, Noreen, and I really enjoyed this conversation.
Oh, thank you. I did too. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.